bald-headed, wig-wearing Paula Metzler on Penfield Town Court, and James P. Mulley Jr., who has more hair than bald-headed, wig-wearing Paula Metzler on Penfield Town Court. This is a search warrant that has your name on it, bald-headed, wig-wearing Paula Metzler. My question is, did you write this search warrant in your little library courtroom? Did you write this yourself? Did you sit down at your laptop or computer and write this? This doesn't have a standard form. This gets Lee LaRoque, this $91,000 a year fanatic, into my residence to look for a hammer and exit with my Chromebook. This is not a standard form that is used by law enforcement at a sheriff's office and a district attorney's office throughout the United States of America. This is not a standard form. It says search warrant, state of New York County, Monroe. I don't know what that is. Documents have numbers on them. That's the first. You can look at it. It says search warrant. Where's the identifying marker that this is a search warrant for Lee LaRoque to get in here? Answer that question, bald-headed, wig-wearing Paula Metzler. And here's the second page. It lists the concoction of the crimes and its descent on my life, this fanaticism by Todd Baxter. How does Lee LaRoque get in here? Search warrant. Did you type this out, search warrant, in your little library courtroom? Why isn't this a standard form? I worked as a public employee for Governor George Pataki and Senate Majority Ralph Marino in Albany. When I needed a form, when I acquired a form, I went to the file cabinet, I took it out, and it had a number on it. I worked for Senator Olympia Snowe and Congressman Morris Smith on Capitol Hill for 5 years. In the Rayburn House office building, the Russell Senate office building. When I needed a form, I went to the file, I looked at it, it had a number, an identifying number for the form I needed. And the form that I used was the Freedom of Information Law. And the form I received was the Freedom of Information Law. It had an identifying number. What is life going to be like for you, you bald-headed, wig-wearing fucking psychopath, if this is just your pathetic concoction? Because this is what I'm going to tell the United States Department of Justice. I'm not waiting for answers from you, but you deserve to defend yourself. So click reply if you haven't blocked me on your email. I'm using multiple email addresses to get to you. So when I send you a YouTube, you're going to get the same YouTube from me from 5 different email accounts, so I know I reach you and you can't block me. What's that say about you that you're blocking me on your email? And I love that fact that you're blocking me because you're terrified of me. You should be. Because I'm defending myself. That's why. I'm defending myself. I have never committed a crime. And that is totally irrelevant to you. You're there sitting in your little fucking star chamber, pronouncing guilt for everyone that appears before you. There is not a single human being, a single American, a single New Yorker, a single resident of Penfield Town Court that appears in Penfield Town Court, is acquitted, and walks out a free man, a free woman. You are an abomination in that little room. So, I will repeat myself. And I will repeat myself because corruption requires the truth to be hammered into it. And you are corruption. I have never experienced a corruption, a fanaticism, a hatred like the corruption, fanaticism, and hatred of you, Paula Metzler, and you, James P. Mulley Jr., and you, $91,000 a year, Lee LaRoque. You were so corrupt at Penfield Town Court when John P. Lomenzo Jr. was abridging my civil and constitutional rights. I demanded his salary, and he refused. Over and over and over, he refused. I now know the salaries are $28,000 and $34,000 because you, Paula Metzler, sent it to me. That's why. So, a $28,000 and a $34,000 pathetic civil servant is in the process of violating my rights. I'm going to say this again. I want to list the defendants in Penfield Town Court who've received multiple Freedom of Information Law documents. And I believe that if, in fact, you do comply, hypothetically, it's going to show guilty, 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 guilty. Every single person is going to be guilty. And how is that explained to the United States Department of Justice? Bald-headed, wig-wearing Paula Metzler and James P. Mulley Jr. has more hair than bald-headed, wig-wearing Paula Metzler. How is that possibly explained your assembly line of guilt? So, To any deputy sheriff of the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office, I'll stop right there. That's the first line. To any deputy sheriff. There are 170 employees at the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office. Not everyone is a deputy sheriff. I don't know how many deputy sheriffs there are. Any deputy sheriff, you sign your name right there. There's your name right there. Any deputy sheriff can come in here at any time they want and look for a hammer because that's what they're looking for. Such a joke. What did they find when Leela Roque exited? Nothing. She came in here and took my Chromebook and left. I'm demanding my Chromebook. Leah, mail my Chromebook back to 26 Sanders Farm Drive. Do you understand me, Leela Roque? Did you, Leela Roque, meet with Paula Metzler to get into my residence? Did you two disgusting, appalling, sickening, bankrupt hacks get together in that little library and decide you were coming into my residence? This is not a standard form. Again, I'm going to hammer it into you. Corruption needs to have the truth hammered into it. Did you, Leela Roque, meet with Paul C. Metzler and concoct this document and decide you're coming into my residence? Where's my Chromebook, Leela Roque? You better mail that back to 26 Sanders Farm Drive. And Paul, I'm not here, so I hope you're losing your mind, trying to send me to jail. I'm never coming into Penfield Town Court, ever. I will never appear there. They're going to have to do what they did to me. You know what they did to me. I went to Canandaigua National Bank on August 30th. I came back home to my residence. Vehicles passed me on Penfield Road because they're following me. I go to the bank, Paula Metzler. I know exactly how much money I had in my pocket. I had $21.39. Follow me here, Paula Metzler, given your age and enfeeblement. I walk down Penfield Road. I make a right at Sanders Farm Drive. I make a left at Willow Pond Way. I walk past Crown Oak Estates. I get to Wegmans. I get to the pharmacy entrance. 5 vehicles and 11 Monroe County Sheriff Office employees stop right there where I was. One of the Monroe County Sheriff Office employees on this August 30th lowered his shoulder, ran at me, drove his shoulder into the small of my back, knocked me down. My head bounced off and ricocheted off the concrete pavement, and then he briefly sat on me. And he put the handcuffs on me, and he put me in the backseat of the vehicle. It's a violent felony assault. And Todd Baxter refuses to tell me the name of his taxpayer subsidized employee that committed this violent felony assault upon me. I'm in the backseat of the Monroe County Sheriff Office vehicle. You know what happened next. What happened next, bald-headed, wig-wearing criminal Paula Metzler? I was driven after the hospital. I had to get an MRI. Todd Baxter's employee sent me to the hospital. And when I was in that MRI tube, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, they are animals at that Monroe County Sheriff's Office, and you're an animal, Paula Metzler. So now I appeared in Penfield Town Court without a prosecutor. There's no one there from the District Attorney's Office. How do you explain that to the United States Department of Justice? Think about that, what I just said. You're imposing a bench trial upon me, you hack. Why isn't there a jury in Penfield Town Court? I appear before this guy after I'm charged with harassment second when my head is snapped back violently. Jermaine Benman, this violent thug at the gym, doesn't ask me one question. Guilty, Monroe County Jail. That's why I say you're an assembly line of guilt. And this guy, Jermaine Benman, appeared before you, Junior Mulley, because you negotiated a deal with Jermaine Benman, the attorney for Jane Benman, and Jessica Wagner at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office to let this violent thug walk right out the door. You, James P. Mulley Jr., are a protection racket for this violent criminal, Jermaine Benman. How do you explain that to the United States Department of Justice? So, I have this check for $61.39 because I had $21.39 in my pocket. This is the check that certifies that Todd Baxter's animal attacked me. Right here. It's the money I had in my pocket when I appeared before you, you bald-headed, wig-wearing criminal, Paula Metzler. So, Paula Metzler, how come you didn't ask me any questions about why I was in Penfield Town Court that day? Just sitting up there underneath your wig. I'm in front of you. And it's not one question. Why are you here? Because it does not matter to you why a defendant is in Penfield Town Court. You're there to pronounce someone guilty. Guilt and innocence are alien concepts to you. There is a separation between guilt and innocence. There's also a separation between guilty and not guilty. I'm not guilty or not guilty. I'm not even in that vicinity of guilty and not guilty. I'm innocent. I have never committed a crime, and that's totally irrelevant to you. And the verification that You have no interest whatsoever in the facts of a case, the facts and circumstances that bring an individual to Penfield Town Court, is how you are refusing to comply with my Freedom of Information Law documents, where I'm demanding the name, charge, and sentence of every defendant in Penfield Town Court before John P. Lomenzo Jr., James P. Mulley Jr., and Paula Metzler. You receive this right here. I'm going to read this multiple times because this is 3 documents. The name, charge, and sentence of every defendant in Penfield Town Court for John P. Lomenzo Jr., James P. Mulley Jr., and Paula Metzler. There's my name, my address, my phone number. If you have any questions, you can call me. There's the date, 12/16. That's my signature. Freedom of Information Law. The name, charge, and sentence of every defendant in Penfield Town Court for John P. Lomenzo Jr., James P. Mulley Jr., and Paula Metzler. December 17th. There's my name. It's my email. Email me if you have any questions, you 2 hacks. The name, charge, and sentence of every defendant in Penfield Town Court for John P. Lomenzo Jr., James P. Mulley Jr., and Paula Metzler. December 18th. It's attached in PDF. So, you have that Freedom of Information Law document. Guess what you're also going to receive today on December 29th? Can you guess what you're also going to receive today on December 29th? You can receive on December 29th, you received on December 28th. On December 28th, you received the name, charge, and sentence of every defendant in Penfield Town Court before John P. Lomenzo Jr., James P. Mulley Jr., and Paula Metzler. Do you understand that, what I just said? Do you understand the language of a Freedom of Information Law, you bald-headed, wig-wearing hack and criminal? Lee LaRoque. So, Paula Metzler. These are the blue gloves that Lee LaRoque wore. This is what this degenerate, you should be able to recognize a degenerate because you are one. She left these in my residence. On this search warrant that doesn't have an identifying marker, mail the proof by affidavit to my residence. What's not to understand, Paula Metzler? Junior Mulley, send me the documentation for Jermaine Benman's appearance in Penfield Town Court with Jessica Wagner, who's in the prosecutor's office and is acting as his defense attorney. You ordered me out of that courtroom, Junior. I received a subpoena, I sat down, and you told your employee, Junior Mulley, get that Chris Chichester out of here. Then Benman goes home. I walk to the window, I say, what happened with the Jermaine Benman case? And I'm told, adjournment of dismissal. I don't know what the hell that is, but that's what she said. So, I'm going to send you a Freedom of Information Law, James P. Mulley Jr. I want that documentation for Jermaine Benman's appearance in Penfield Town Court when you negotiated a deal with Jessica Wagner of the Monroe County District Attorney's Office to let this violent thug walk right out the door after he snapped my head back at the gym and I'm charged with harassment second, sitting in the back seat of Andrew Reale's police vehicle, sheriff's vehicle. That's been explained on multiple YouTubes and to you. I've told you this. Jessica Wagner is no longer employed at the District Attorney's Office because I don't know why. But I hope she was fired because of what I did on YouTube about her and what I sent to the office of Sandra Dorley. I do not know why Jessica Wagner, the defense attorney for Jermaine Benman, who works in the Monroe County District Attorney's Office, negotiated a deal with you, James P. Mulley Jr., to let this violent thug who snapped my head back walk right out the door. I do not know why Jessica Wagner was not there, but I hope she was fired because of my contact with the District Attorney's Office. So, you, James P. Mulley Jr., need to be removed from Penfield Town Court immediately. What are you doing allowing this violent thug, Jermaine Benman, to walk right out the door? What are you doing, Paula Metzler, just sitting there in Penfield Town Court without any interest whatsoever in why I'm in Penfield Town Court? You are 2 disgusting hacks. So, you're going to receive from me December 29th, December 30th, and you're going to receive from me, until you comply, the Freedom of Information Law. This is the weaponization of information, the Freedom of Information Law, and I used to use these documents. This exposes the truth. I'm going to contact Michael Cain, the editor of the Democrat Chronicle, when I decide on the date. I'm going to tell him everything that's happened to me. I'm going to contact every radio and television station in Monroe County and tell its producers and on-air talent what has happened to me. I'm going to contact the office of Andrew Cuomo, tell his employees what has happened to me. I'm going to contact the Majority Leader Speaker in Albany. I'm going to contact the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Senate Judiciary Committee in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill. I'm going to be relentless in attempting to remove you 2 criminals from Penfield Town Court. That's not an exaggeration to call you 2 criminals. You are an assembly line of guilt. You are de facto employees of Sheriff Todd Baxter and District Attorney of Sandra Doyle. It does not matter what the facts are in Penfield Town Court. Doesn't matter what the truth is in Penfield Town Court. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are in Penfield Town Court. Guilty, 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 guilty. An abomination is what you are. So, I will never come into Penfield Town Court, Paula Metzler, ever. They will have to attack me, put me in handcuffs, and physically drag me into Penfield Town Court. Drag is the word because I'm not going to walk. They will have to drag me. I'm not using that as a metaphor. They will have to drag me. I will not walk into Penfield Town Court. There is no way I'm entering Penfield Town Court in any capacity. I'll not walk in there, and I will not even allow them to physically walk me in there. I will never enter Penfield Town Court of my own volition. Do you understand me, you two fucking criminals? And fuck you, Paula Metzler, and fuck you, James P. Mulley Jr., and I know exactly what you're thinking. He needs to be arrested and charged for what he just said. I'm exercising my First Amendment right. I'm trying to activate your hatred and fanaticism, and that's easy to do. I'm not only trying to activate it, I'm trying to have you each attain a new level of fanaticism. Innocence is totally irrelevant to you. Innocence is alien to you. And I'm the evidence that innocence is totally irrelevant to you and alien to you. I have never committed a crime. I am 55 years old. In the 30 plus years since I was honorably discharged as a 22-year-old Sergeant E5 from 2nd Squadron, 17 Cavalry, 101st Airborne Division Air Assault, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, I have one speeding ticket. I didn't suddenly lose the ability to make a distinction between legal and illegal. You don't know the distinction between legal and illegal because you are an assembly line of guilt in that nauseating star chamber. So, I'm a defendant on a piece of paper right here. That the defendant. This delivers me to jail. This coffee stain document, that's not my coffee. This right here, I'm a defendant on a piece of paper. John P. Lomenzo Jr., not one word from him when I'm in Penfield Town Court. Why in my courtroom? Does Daniel DeLaus III sound familiar? Daniel DeLaus III is a child rapist in Penfield. I ride my bike down 5 Mile Line, and I'm riding it by Anatel Luster. So when I ride my bike to Webster down 5 Mile Line and back, for years, I don't even know that Daniel DeLaus III is on Anatel Luster, and he was observed by witnesses trying to entice children with candy or some other device to get them into his vehicle because Daniel DeLaus III is a child rapist in Penfield. He appears in Penfield Town Court. 70-year-old John P. Lomenzo Jr. does not recuse himself from the appearance of Daniel DeLaus III, even though he knows the family and he knows Daniel DeLaus II. He releases Daniel DeLaus III. What does a child rapist like to do? Rape children. Daniel DeLaus III is subsequently rearrested in our legitimate arrest, brought back into Penfield Town Court trying to do the same exact thing. John P. Lomenzo Jr., your 70-year-old criminal, former colleague, is a child rapist protection racket for Daniel DeLaus III. How do you explain that to the United States Department of Justice? Walk through the parking lot. Is that right? Walk through the parking lot. Email to Todd Baxter, not only an email, I've sent him repeatedly documents in the mail, registered mail return receipt, where his employees have to sign for it. His employees have signed for this. This is an email on June 8, 2019. Todd K. Baxter, fascist stooge. At 7:38 p.m., a man wearing white shorts and blue shirt, a woman wearing blue shorts and blue shirt, placed a total of 4 feet on the sanctity of the Holy Road in Todd K. Baxter parking lot by walking upon it and through it. This man and woman have transformed Nairaj and Layla Kumar Shah to V for victim. At least 7 people walked upon your sacred cement today. That's what I witnessed, and I was only home for 2 hours, Todd the fascist stooge. You already know this crime of century occurred in the Holy Roman Todd K. Baxter parking lot because you expended taxpayer dollars to install a surveillance device atop the Consumer Insights building at 2025 Penfield Road. Did you arrest any of these 7 people? Did Sean Shaw call you about one of these individuals? The answer both times is no. But if I made the same walk, sick and demented Sean Shaw on the phone in 30 seconds calling you from Crazy Town. Contact Dr. Gloria Nichols, Nairaj, and Layla Kumar. She will help you leave Crazy Town. Nairaj and Layla Kumar Shah, I'm going to you to concoct the crime for me, for walk through a parking lot I've walked through 4,000 times. And now you're trying to send me to jail again, you bald-headed, wig-wearing hack, because they were on an email I sent to the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office. Explain that to the United States Department of Justice, Paula Metzler, how I signed an order of protection and handcuffs. And I know that if I don't sign it, I'm not coming out of those handcuffs. And then they received an email link from me when I contacted the district attorney's office and sheriff's office, and that's how he's trying to send me to jail again because of an email. You bald-headed, wig-wearing fucking criminal, Paula Metzler, are trying to send me to jail because I signed an order of protection and handcuffs, and I know I'm not coming out of those handcuffs, and then I sent an email on a link to Nayraj and Layla Kumar Shah because I used their names. Fuck you, bald-headed, wig-wearing Paula Metzler. How do you explain that order of protection to the United States Department of Justice, Paula Metzler? How is that possibly explained? How does that have any type of validity where I know I'm not coming out of those handcuffs, I have to sign it, and they received an email link from me, and that's now a new charge for me? Why do Nayraj and Layla Kumar Shah, two people I've never met, need an order of protection? Answer that question. You will have to answer these questions, you fucking bald-headed criminal. Why do Nayraj and Layla Kumar Shah need an order of protection from me? No one who has ever met me has ever needed an order of protection from me. And this hack, John P. Metzler Jr., wrote an order of protection for me to avoid Jermaine Benman. And it says X on it because I refuse to sign it. I'm walking out of Wegmans. Who comes walking right at me in the parking lot? Jermaine Benman. I screamed at him in the parking lot. So if I would have signed this repulsive little piece of paper by 70-year-old pedophile protection racket for Daniel Glaus III, YouTube is now at 21 minutes, and I'm concluding. Paula Metzler, send me this proof by affidavit. Leela Roque, send me this proof by affidavit. I am relentless, and I will soon be in contact with the United States Department of Justice about you two criminals, Paula Metzler and James P. Mulley Jr. on Penfield Town Court.